Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Doing another top 10 video, and today's top 10 is actually going to be my top 10 favorite Goosebumps episodes. Yes, the original TV show with the bad acting, the cheesy effects, all that stuff. Great shit, right? So we're going to go ahead and jump right into this, and I'm going to give you guys my honorable mentions. And before I do, I want to let you know, if you like this type of content, hit the like button. Let us know that you like this type of content so we can make more of these, because I would love to make more Goosebumps stuff and make more top 10 stuff. But we really need to know whether or not you guys want us to do that or not, because this is a channel for horror fans. We are horror fans. Me and Michael are horror fans. My buddies are horror fans. We just love to talk about horror stuff, and Goosebumps is also sort of a horror thing. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into my top 10. And right at my honorable mentions list, we have quite a few honorable mentions, actually. First up, we got A Night in Terror Tower, Night of the Living Dummy 3, A Shocker on Shock Street, Welcome to Camp Nightmare, and Say Cheese and Die. So, number 10 is the most nostalgic episode of Goosebumps, I think, on my list. And it's because it's the first episode of Goosebumps I've seen. And that is Stay Out of the Basement. Stay Out of the Basement, I think, with its... I mean, let's be real. All the acting's kind of bad, but Stay Out of the Basement had some moments of actual legitimate suspense where I actually was worried about what was going to happen to these two kids because I didn't know whether or not the father was the father. I mean, by the end of the episode, I actually couldn't even recognize. I don't even know how they kind of mixed up the fake father with the real father. But the whole episode is practically about the two kids kind of trying to figure out what is up with their father and why he is keeping them out of the basement, because he is working on something in the basement. But every time they decide to even go near that thing, he freaks out, right? He's like, "Stay out of the basement," and shit like that. He's just, get away from that. My place, mine, right? And he's just rude as hell to these kids, and he is trying to make them eat this green shit that you don't even know what the fuck it is. And he's like standing there like watching them, and they have to wait for him to even answer the phone so they can just dump the food out because they don't want to eat it. They have no idea where the fuck it came from, but he's like really wanting them to fucking eat. Yeah, it's creepy. And he turns out to be like a plant. Yeah, fucking weird. Great stuff though. If you have not seen that episode, check it out. You might like it. Number 9. You know, it's kind of cool. I'm going to bring this one up. We have like 90-something days left before Halloween. It's actually Attack of the Jackolanterns. That's my number 9, Attack of the Jackolanterns. Very fun episode, I think. This is probably the most, next to my number, I won't say what number it is, but there's another one on my list who has a good Halloween vibe too. But this one has a very unique Halloween vibe. There's really cool, actual kind of things that parents kind of question themselves before they send their kids out, because, you know, anybody can take these kids, right? Like, there's been kids like around the neighborhood getting missing and still going missing and stuff, and the mom is like, you know, I'm not wanting to send you out there because there's kids going missing, and, you know, the father, you know, he's like, well, she'll be with a group of friends, so she should be okay, right? And the episode is, it definitely has its utterly kind of chilly moments. I remember the house scene where they go into the house, and there's like an old couple there, and the woman, like, brings them inside the house and then shows her husband them. And he's, like, a really big, huge guy sitting on a chair. Like, he's really disturbing looking. And he's trying to, compliment their costumes and stuff. And it's, like, stranger danger because he's getting really close. It's weird. It's a creepy little episode. But the main focus of the episode is actually dealing with aliens, which is a weird twist. But it works for some odd reason because it's Goosebumps, right? So, I mean, these two jack-o'-lantern guys, like, on stilts come out, like, huge-ass jack-o'-lantern guys come out, and they are making them trick-or-treat pretty much to death, right? They're taking them around, and they're just making them trick-or-treat everywhere for, like, hours and hours and hours, and they're getting tired, exhausted, but they can't ditch these guys because they're, like, more trick-or-treating, and even they dump out their bags of candy and say, you know, now your bag is empty, go get more. And it's crazy. It's actually a fun little episode. I actually enjoy that one quite a bit. It is one I don't think a lot of people are going to expect me to put on my list, but it's actually the episode Don't Wake Mummy. Yeah. When the mummy gets sent to the house from their husband, he sends the mummy to the house just to stay, and it's in like the garage or something, and then it starts becoming alive and starts walking through the house and stuff, and yeah, it's a sequel to that one original Mummy, Return of the Mummy episode from like season 1. But I kind of enjoyed it a little bit more. It's a weird one. It's you know, but it's enjoyable. I like the Mummy. I like the look of the Mummy. I'm a big fan of Egypt and all that stuff, Egyptian pyramids and all that stuff. I'm huge on that stuff, Egyptology and all that. And this Mummy, it looks so cool. He looks like a fucking normal. Like, this is the first thing I think of when I think of a mummy. It's not really Boris Karloff or anything like that. I actually think of a mummy that looks exactly like the mummy I'm describing in the show. So that's one of the reasons why I like it. I just really enjoyed the episode. Really fun. You know, fun. Number 7 is possibly the one that actually spooked me the most. And that's Welcome to Dead House. Welcome to Dead House, it's about a family that moves into a new neighborhood, as you do, right? And this neighborhood is already a little bit fishy, you know. People are kind of pale. They're all pale, and they look off and everything, and they're weird, and they're always hanging out in the shadows and stuff, and they never come out in the sunlight. And it's because they're dead. They're dead. They're actually dead people walking around and living in this town that was, like, taken out by some, horrible chemical disease or something like that actually went through the town, and it killed them all like a plague. And they're actually dead people who actually feed on the living, so they're like having living people move into their town so they can all try to eat them at some point, like devour their souls or something. Very crazy shit. And it's actually very creepy. I remember the one scene when the daughter is like laying in bed, and you see like it keeps cutting out from her sleeping in like into her like from her sleeping to her closet, and you can see something like digging in like through a hole in the closet. And one night she actually sees a fucking woman, tall, pale, black-haired, black-dressed, tall-ass woman come out of the closet and starts reaching out for her, and it is one of the most unsettling fucking scenes I have seen in Goosebumps. It gave me the chills. It creeps me out to this day. Eek, eek. Number 6. Number 6 is probably the second episode I saw of Goosebumps, and I actually really love this episode. I think it's actually it's like one up there with, I'm not going to say what, but it's really one of those ones I actually can see being probably one of the more iconic episodes, and that is The Girl Who Cried Monster. It's about a girl who goes to a library, and there's a librarian there who, you know, seems like a really nice guy, and all of a sudden she stays there one night because she's finding something suspicious about him, and she stays there one night, and he's eating bugs and shit, and then he reveals his true fucking form, and it's actually a monster with like 2 fucking eyeballs that pop out of his head. Really cool effects actually for the monster. I was like really surprised actually. It's well done. And you know, he eats bugs and everything, and then he chases her home, and then it reveals that, you know, the parents actually invited him over for dinner, and they show their true form, and they're actually monsters too. It's crazy because it's like now who all are monsters now? Because it's like if the librarian was a monster and now the parents are monsters, are like everybody around town monsters, or were they just felt threatened that a monster moved into town and they wouldn't want to deal with it? But very interesting episode. I really enjoyed it. Number 5. One of my personal favorites. It's The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. Scarecrow Walks at Midnight to me was a lot of fun. And the reason why it was a lot of fun because it really reminded me. It's kind of like a fucking movie I always wanted to see but never got. But it's in like a short episode of Goosebumps. I would have loved to see a family who lives out in the country, and there's scarecrows that come out at night and try to kill you. But they don't, well, they haven't tried to kill anybody, but, you know, they come to life at night, and they're always trying to get inside the house. I remember the scene where the one's banging on the windows and tries to open up the door, shaking the doorknob. It's creepy as shit. And, you know, the guy actually did, like, some fucking witchcraft or voodoo stuff and actually brought them to life to hopefully make the farm life a lot easier for the grandparents. But he fucked up and did something wrong, and now they want to attack him and try to take him out or everything like that. And it's just one of those fun-ass episodes I really highly enjoy, and I hope you guys, I recommend it to everybody who hasn't seen it. Like, if you like Goosebumps and you have not seen The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, please do yourself a favor and check it out, because I think you're going to really enjoy it. I'm talking a little bit fast, but it's like burning up in this room, but I want to get this list out, so. Number 4 is possibly second or first most iconic Goosebumps episode, and that is One Day at Horrorland. Everybody remembers One Day at Horrorland, where the family goes and they see this sign for a theme park, and it says Horrorland, and they're like, oh, we really need to go, and they're, you know, no. But they go instead, they actually do go, and there's people dressed like monsters, right? You know, they have the horns and everything, green skin, giant ears, you know, crazy-ass teeth, and they're trying to push this family to go on more rides and stuff, and they actually don't know, but this is actually a real monster living community. They live there, and they have their own television show and everything, and Horrorland is like a fucking, yeah, it's like a theme park and like a monster environment. It's crazy. It's a fun episode, but it does have its very, very good kind of creepy moments, scary moments. The guy tries to break the family out of like a jail or something, like this fucking caged-in area where like there's like a giant lion monster that's down there. And when the monster helps him out, he actually gets grabbed by the fucking lion after helping the family, so he's a good guy, and gets drugged back in there and eaten. That's the last you see of him. He just gets pulled in there and he's screaming for his life, and they run. Insane. insane for a kid's show. I love it, though. Number 3. Number 3 actually gave me nightmares when I was younger, and it is the Werewolf of Fever Swamp. The Werewolf of Fever Swamp, family moves out to the country, you know, to help the, like, wildlife and stuff, and all of a sudden, the main kid meets a friend who lives out in the swamp area, the country area, and he kind of tells him a story about how somebody drowned in the swamp or something like that, and then he says, like, you know, rumors of a werewolf and stuff like that out here and stuff and like that, and there's a guy who lives out in the woods. Actually, there's a guy who lives out in the woods. I remember now. He lives out in the woods, and they think that he's a murderer, like he murdered his family or something, but he really didn't. He's actually someone who's living out there to try to hunt down the thing that did kill his family. But it's all revolved around this guy that you think might be a bad guy, but he's really not. He's just a creepy old hermit who lives out in the woods and tries to find or hunt down the werewolf that's living out there. And then you find out that the werewolf was actually the friend that he's been hanging out with for like weeks on end. So yeah, very fun, very crazy, pretty damn good little werewolf effects. You don't get to see like the werewolf full on. I can't remember if you do or not. But I don't remember seeing the werewolf full on front. You just kind of see the kid like with sharp teeth and everything, and he's trying to talk through the werewolf, telling him, you know, run because I don't want to hurt you. And at the end of the episode, yeah, he kind of dies. It's a pretty dark episode, actually. Like, there's a couple of people who die in this, and a deer dies, too. It's like a pretty damn dark episode of Goosebumps, so I really like it. I think you will, too. It's pretty fun, pretty terrifyingly crazy, but I really enjoy it. Number 2 is the most iconic Goosebumps episode. It's the most iconic. It's the most beloved, and that is the Haunted Mask. The Haunted Mask. Carly Beth. Right, I got the mask right behind me over there because I love the episode too, as it is number 2. I love this episode. It's certainly one of the most atmospheric, kind of like the Werewolf Fever Swamp. It's very atmospheric, and it's very, very straightforward. It's about a girl who gets bullied a lot, you know, made fun of by a group of, like, at least 2 kids, right? There's, like, 2 boy bullies in the episode, and they, you know, make fun of her a lot. But she's tired of getting bullied, so she wanted to go with something scary to impress everybody at school. So she goes and she finds a store who actually sells masks, like a lot of cool little masks. But she comes across the back room of the store, and it has like a little set of different masks. But they're actually not masks, they're skins. He doesn't tell her that, though. He just says you can't buy one. So she grabs the mask that she wanted, and it's that green one behind me, and runs out of the fucking building with the mask. He tries to stop her, but... And even she tried to go back in, but he shut the thing because I think he was too fed up. He was like, fuck this, I'm not going to deal with this fucking brat, right? He just shuts the door, locks it, and says close. You see what happens. You know, that's karma right there. You steal something, you're going to see what happens, right? So she puts on the mask, and every time she puts the mask on, she realizes that it's hard to get off. Kind of like mine. It's hard to get off. It's a very tight mask. But it starts becoming the skin for her face, is actually the problem. It starts becoming the skin for her face, and the more and it starts to change her personality, like to almost a freak. She was like a nice, kind girl who started becoming this freak underneath the mask and like a monster, a cruel person. And she goes back to him and tries to ask him, can you help me take this mask off? But he says, you know, this would be a terrifying situation. He says, this is your new face. And she has sharp-ass teeth. The mask is well done. The visual, like the practical effects in this episode, the mask design and the sweat that comes off the mask really does add to it. And her acting, possibly the best in the whole fucking series. Seriously, when she's crying and she's at the end of that episode, she's crying and, like, realizing that this is going to be her face. She's crying and screaming. It's because I feel for her. I'm like, oh my god, this would be terrifying. And she's nailing it. This is the best performance in the whole fucking series. I guarantee you. Yeah, I even say it over, like, some of the, like, all the adult actors. This is some very top-notch acting for a really cheesy show. And then that scene when the faces come to life because they got offended because she hates the face. They got offended, so they started lifting up off their the mask stands, and they start following her through the fucking graveyard and shit, saying, you know, join us, Carly Beth. It's creepy, unsettling. The guy who owns the store is a fucking... He's terrifying. It's a really well done episode, and I highly suggest it. Good shit. Number 1... I mean, I know a lot of people aren't going to like my number 1, because I know number 1 should... Actually, number 2 should be number 1. But number 1 to me is actually Night of the Living Dummy 2. The reason why Night of the Living Dummy 2 is my number 1, not only for nostalgia purposes, not only because I love the story, but because it introduces possibly the actual most iconic villain in Goosebumps, and that is Slappy the Dummy. I love this version of Slappy the Dummy. I liked him in the movie, but that to me looked like a typical ventriloquist dummy. He just looked very typical, like that's exactly how I picture a ventriloquist dummy to look. And didn't really add anything new, but this version of Slappy looks nothing like the book describes, for one. He's a redheaded, fucking, he's a redheaded fucking toned face weirdo with big ass bulging eyes that are green, and he is fucking terrifying. Every scene he's in, and he starts talking, because like when she's sitting there talking through the dummy, and then another voice comes to him and he starts talking. For one, the voice fits perfectly, but it's so unsettling. And you know, the scene where he grabs the girl's hand and starts laughing, he is so terrifying. And yeah, I could also say for the other versions of Slappy in the other episodes, like Bride of the Dummy and Night of the Living Dummy 3, they're great. He's good in those ones too, but really this is the one that I think he really stood out the most. And yeah, the episode is very corny, very cheesy. The practical effects are very, you know, it looks like a guy just kind of walking with a dummy. It doesn't look like anything like crazy, like he's not. I mean, someone on YouTube could have done these effects, but like, I really feel like the villain in this episode really stood out above most of any other villain in Goosebumps. He is so fucking creepy. He's so insanely cool. I just could not help but put the episode on my number one, because to me, I think that's the one I watch the most. Is Night of the Living Dummy 2. I've watched that one almost every year for Halloween, and I've got to say something. It really does. To me, that's my favorite episode of Goosebumps. Yeah, Haunted Mask, you know, is definitely a second, and I have watched it every year, but Night of the Living Dummy to me is just something I can't get over. I love it. I love the version of Slappy. So good. Guys, what is your top 10? Comment down below. Let me know your top 10 down below, because I'm dead on curious to hear where you're going to rank these fucking episodes, if they're even in your top 10. So guys, of course, like the video. Let us know you like content like this, because I'm more than happy to do more of these. So guys, thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. And I hope you guys do certainly take care of yourselves. Check out the next video.